Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to a scraping tutorial on how to use Python requests and also how to evaluate Ajax-driven websites for either automation or for data communication or data scraping. A lot of terms for it. So what we're going to look at here is we're going to look at an Ajax-based site. And in prior videos, I've used an Applebee's website just as a simple example. I do not condone trying to scrape their website or anything without their permission, but this is just an example of how to use a couple of tools to analyze a website that has Ajax data that comes from a server that you can't get in the source code. And what that means is when you right click and you view source of the web page, the data you're looking for is not actually in here because it only exists inside the browser. And the reason why is because it only exists in JavaScript, and that's what JSON is. It's just it's commonly used with JavaScript, and it's just a data syntax similar to XML, but it's very lightweight and it can be passed around using JavaScript very easily. So anyway, I didn't really think about how to phrase that very well. So anyway, I apologize if that is confusing, but I'll get into what I'm talking about here right away. When we inspect the element on this page, what we're going to look at is the location. So click on the location. You can see it actually grabs the closest one to where I'm at. And it does that based on my geolocation. And it does that automatically. Now, when you're using Chrome, there is a network panel. When you right-click and do inspect element down here, you can click on the network. And what it does, this little red button here means it's recording all requests that are going out, and then you can sort by GET and POST and the status of the response and everything. You can click this little clear button and that'll remove everything. That's what you're going to want to do. Now, when we do a zip code here, so let's say location, I can enter a location right now. So I'll go ahead and give an address. So I'll say 22171. I don't even know if that's a good zip code or not. 21771, I think that's Maryland. Yeah, it's Maryland. Okay, so you can see a lot of requests went out and got made and everything. But when we look at this, when we right click and you say inspect element, you can see that the zip code and everything exists, and you can see it's inside the browser. It looks like it would be inside the source code, but when you view the page source and we search for zip code, you can see it's actually putting in the default zip code based on my location, but that data for Frederick, Maryland that we just searched, it does not exist inside the source. So you can't use something like Python Beautiful Soup to just grab this Applebee's location and get the data back. You have to do more, and that's why we're going to be using Python requests. So in order to evaluate what you need to do to get this kind of data that's being returned and that exists inside the browser, number one, you can use Selenium. But Selenium is slow, and I have videos that show you how to do that with Selenium so you can actually see what's going on. And it grabs data outside the browser. It works great, but if you need that to grab data quickly, that's not good. So when we go over to the network panel and make sure the little red button is on so that we're recording, and if I go ahead and I'm going to do this again, just press enter, and you can see that the requests that are being made. I'm going to sort by method here so that I can get the post request on top, because that's what I'm looking for here. And when you look at these things, you can click on each one of them and get location. You can see you get a status code back at 200. You can see the response data. It's grabbing the closest Applebee's or the closest city to that zip code. It's actually getting the latitude and longitude by zip code, so that way it can then use the latitude and longitude to get all restaurants in the vicinity. And that's why it finds Frederick, Maryland as being closest to that 21771 zip code. So you can see here it's Mount Airy, Maryland, but the location that comes back is Frederick because there's obviously not one in Mount Airy. They just basically said, okay, let me get the latitude longitude from the zip, and then we'll go ahead and call this get location by bounds. So if we have the latitude and longitude already, what we'd want to do in a request is just go ahead and call get location by bounds. So that's the URL that we're actually looking to communicate with. So when we come over here, what we want to use is a tool like Fiddler. And just download Fiddler. It's a free application, but it allows you to easily make these requests without actually using something like Python request, because you can see the data come back and everything, which is good. Let me go ahead and clear all this stuff, so I'll remove that. Now when you have a Fiddler screen, you're going to want to go over to Composer and then click on Compose, and it'll probably be defaulted to Get. But here's the URL for that get location by bounds that we were talking about, which is right here. So we can just copy the link address, pull up Fiddler, and you just paste it in here. Now it's a post request, so you change it over to post. Now the request headers, you would actually get that information when we click on this and we go to headers. One important thing, when we look at this, you can see that it's wrapping up form data. That means that we need to actually include this content type, which says that it's form encoded data. So it's form URL encoded. So we want to copy that, and we're going to put that into Fiddler's request headers here. And now the request body is like, okay, well, how do we pass this data along? So we'll need to have the latitude and longitude, and you can see it's already built that for us based on the get location. So if we take the form data here that's in the browser, we can just say view URL encoded. I'm sorry, you say view source, and then you can say view parse. So we don't want the parse version, we want the source version. And then we would just copy this entire source, which is really just a query string parameter. It's like key =, value, end key =, value, end key =, value. Same pattern over and over again. And that's just a URL request. So if we copy that entire thing and we put this inside the Fiddler body, and then we say execute, you'll get the result back, and we get a 200. And if we double click on this, you can see that I have JSON data selected, so you can see all the data comes back in JSON, and you see it's Frederick, Maryland, same data that was coming back. So I could have just, using Python request, make a direct call to this URL, pass in those headers and those values, the form encoded values, and I would get the response back in JSON. So I'm going to pull up my editor here and start a project called Python request. All right, and then let's go ahead and add a file to this. And we'll just call this test. Alright, number one, let's see if we even have requests installed, because I don't even remember if I do or not. Alright, so apparently I do. Okay. Alright, so since a request is installed, and if it's not installed, you just simply do like pip install request on your command line, and it will install it for you. But once you have requests installed, we're going to do the same thing we did in Fiddler, except we're going to bring this into Python code. So first things first, we need to create a dictionary that we're going to call headers. And this stuff is going to hold the content type, which we grabbed from Fiddler, but if we look at that, we can see it's right here. So we'll copy all this stuff. And it should be all in single quotes or double quotes, either way. And the bottom line is you copy this stuff in here, and I'm going to just paste it in here just to make the video a little bit quicker, but you would add this stuff manually. That part's duplicated, my bad. All right, so if you need to pause the screen, just go ahead and do that. But this is all it is just a dictionary, key value, so content type value, user agent value, host value, content length. And some of this stuff may not be needed, but this is what Fiddler did for us out of the box when we requested this URL, so it probably doesn't hurt to add it. You may want to change your user agent to something like Mozilla or something less obvious that you're hitting them up. Now we have this this data that we had encoded. In order to do that and request, it will encode it for you automatically. So we're going to create another dictionary, which we'll call our payload. And then once again, I'm actually just going to copy and paste this to make it quicker. But you can see that this information that we're putting in here, the key and the value, all in single quotes, we got from our browser, which Chrome makes it very easy for us to form data, latitude, longitude 1, lat 2, longitude 2, epicenter, latitude. So just that's how we get that data there. And then every site will be different, obviously, depending on what you're trying to do. Now once we've done that with request, we're now going to say our request equals request.post, and then we're going to give the first argument, which is the URL that we had determined that we need to request the JSON data from. So we'll pass that in there. Next, we're going to do a comma, and then we give a headers argument. So we'll say headers equals headers, and then comma, and then we're going to say params equals payload. And because this is a, we also need to have the following comma as well. Alright, now let's just go ahead and say print our request .json. Alright, hopefully this thing will work. What the hell is wrong with this? Oh, pep line too long. We don't even need the comma there. But anyway, don't worry about that. That's just my editor being stupid. Alright, so let's go ahead and run this code. And you can see we get the same exact results that we got from Fiddler. So here's our JSON data being returned, which shows Frederick, Maryland, and all this stuff in here, like latitude, longitude, the restaurant hours. It goes on and on. So ultimately, guys, I probably should have planned the video out a little bit better. Hopefully you guys don't thumbs me down on this one. It is helpful, I think. It's not really like a beginner thing, but the bottom line is I just showed you how to evaluate a website using Chrome to figure out what sort of AJAX requests are being made that is communicating with a server, and the server, in most instances, especially moving forward with these all JavaScript sites, servers are returning nothing but JSON and allowing the JavaScript in the client browser to basically build the page for you, which it lowers the amount of requests that need to be handled by a server. Which is it increases productivity. So you hear about a lot of single page apps and things like that. So these types of tactics are going to be extremely important going forward as far as trying to get data for any sort of project that you're working on, or even testing and things. So the bottom line is that I showed you how to use the network panel in Chrome to evaluate what requests are being made, and then be able to analyze using Chrome what data is being passed in those requests, and that way you can get that groundwork out of the way when you bring that data over into Python requests, to know exactly what information you need to fill out with Python requests, and then how to get that data back. Once you have the data, you then just go through sifting through the JSON, storing data to a database, maybe making more calls with that data, whatever you want to do at that point. So anyway, guys, please subscribe. Thank you for watching, and have a good day. Bye.